There are three things that make up a sentence. We have the subject, which is who or what the sentence is about. And notice that this can be a pronoun, which is a word like he or she or they, them, it, or it can be a proper noun, which is, a name of a person, name of a place. It could be a person or a thing. It's just what the sentence is about. The verb is the action. So what is that subject doing? A supporting detail is pretty much just adding to the sentence, kind of answering a who, what, when, where, why. That kind of gives extra information for the sentence. So for in this example, Juan goes home, our subject is Juan, the verb is goes, and where is he going? Juan's going home. And so this supporting detail is answering the where. So where is he going home? A fragment is pretty much anything that doesn't have all three of those things. And so a sentence has to have at least one of each of those three things. And if it doesn't, then it's a fragment. Some examples of fragments: answered the question for him. And so this one doesn't have a subject. So who answered the question for him? You could say that him would be the pronoun, the subject, but it's not in this case because they're answering the question for him. But who is answering the question? So it's missing a subject. The second example we have is immediately after reading a very long book. And so what's happening after reading a very long book? Who's reading the book? And we don't know these things because there's no subject to the sentence as well, even though it has two supporting details. So immediately after would be answering when, and a very long book is like, what are they reading? A very long book. So it's answering two of those questions, but there's no subject. And so it's a fragment. She had to do. And so she had to do what? Now we don't have a supporting detail. We have a subject and we have a verb to do, but we don't have a supporting detail. So what is being done in the sentence? So that's a fragment as well. Some exceptions to this are, like, you can have a subject and a verb, but the supporting detail is implied. So with he cried, we have the subject, so he cried is the verb, but we don't have a supporting detail. In this case, we don't need one because when you cry, it's implied that you're sad. And so that answers how is he? He's sad because he's crying. She missed. So she missed what? And so we know that when you miss something, when you throw something and you miss, it's implied that you threw something because you can't throw nothing. So it's implied that there is a who or what that's being thrown at a person or a thing. So those are the structure of a sentence. Now we're going to go over types of sentences. And so a simple sentence is one complete thought. It just pretty much has one subject, or at least one subject, at least one verb, and at least one supporting thought. And so both of these are simple sentences. This one has one subject, one verb, and one complete thought. This one has 4 supporting details. So quickly, like how is he washing the dishes? He's quickly washing them. What is he washing and rinsing the dishes? Why is he washing them? Because they're piling up. And where are they piling up? In the sink. So you're adding a whole bunch of extra supporting details to the sentence, but since it only has one subject, he's washing these dishes, then it's a simple sentence. A compound sentence is pretty much 2 simple sentences put together with a coordinating conjunction. And we go over coordinating conjunctions in another one of the videos that we have. But to be very brief, a coordinating conjunction is just a conjunction. So in this case, a word like but or and or so with that comma. So comma, but. And that pretty much functions the same way as a period, in that it combines 2 sentences together instead of separating them like a period. But it's pretty much the same thing because both parts of the sentences before the coordinating conjunction have to be complete. In this case, they're both simple sentences. So Anna wants to open her birthday present. And so that's a complete sentence. Anna wants to open her birthday present. And another complete sentence after the coordinating conjunction, she has to wait until after dinner. And of course, we went over the structure of the sentences. So we have the subject, which is Anna, opening being the verb, and her birthday present is, what is she opening her birthday present? Or what does she want to open her birthday present? So there's that supporting detail. And in this sentence, she, which is referring to Anna as the subject, wait is the verb, and then when does she have to wait? Until after dinner. So there's the supporting detail. And a compound sentence is pretty much just combining those two simple sentences together with a coordinating conjunction. A complex sentence is, I wanted to say it was a little more complex, but it's actually very easy. A complex sentence is the combination of at least one complete sentence and a dependent clause. It depends on a complete sentence to make sense. So a dependent clause is pretty much a fragment, and it depends on a complete sentence to make sense. And so that's what the note is here. It's all right to have fragments as long as they are attached to a complete thought. But without the complete thought, it's just a fragment. But if there's a fragment with the complete thought, we call it a dependent clause because it depends on the complete sentence. And there, it could be in the beginning, in the middle of a sentence, or at the end of a sentence. And so in these examples, we have shaking nervously, Thomas reads his poem to the class. Shaking nervously doesn't make sense on its own. And of course, the dependent clauses in each of these sentences are separated by that comma. And so at the beginning, we have shaking nervously. So there's a verb shaking. And how is he shaking? Nervously. But we don't have a subject in this part. So it's a dependent clause. It depends on this complete sentence. Thomas reads his poem to the class. And so when it has that subject, this adds information to this part of the sentence. The end of the sentence can also have a dependent clause. The vase falls from the table, shattering into pieces. So shattering is the verb. Into pieces is how it's shattering. And on its own, shattering into pieces makes no sense. But since we have the complete sentence, the vase falls from the table, shattering into pieces adds extra information to that simple sentence. And of course, it can also be in the middle. Julia and her friend late to class again, panic because their teacher will be mad at them. So if you were to get rid of this part between the commas and read the sentence, it'll make sense. Julia and her friend panic because their teacher will be mad at them. And so this right here, late to class again, will just be extra information. Compound complex you won't really see that often. It's pretty much two complete thoughts and at least one dependent clause. So it's like a compound sentence with a dependent clause. So it's like compound mixed with complex, hence the name compound complex. An example of this, and of course you won't see them that often because they're very long and people usually don't write very, very long sentences. But an example of what that would look like would be, sad and crying, Jacob sits at the corner waiting, even though he knows his friend won't show up. And so we have the two sentences here in between. Again, we separate them with the commas. So Jacob sits at the corner waiting is its own complete thought. He knows his friend won't show up is another complete thought. And so sad and crying is just extra information. So how is Jacob doing? He's sad and he's crying. And then even though it's kind of just a transition. And so we have the two complete sentences right here, and we have the dependent clause right here. And again, you won't really see them that often. I would just focus on simple sentences, compound sentences, and complex sentences, because those are really the most important ones.
Online writing assistance is available via the EPCC Writing Center website. You can meet one-on-one with a tutor virtually on Blackboard Collaborate. Audible and written feedback is also available via email submission. Please visit the Writing Center website for more information and operating hours.